Hey there, Orioles fans. Today is Friday, May 27th, 2022, and welcome back in to the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I'm your host, Connor Newcomb, and coming up on today's episode, we take a look at the newest addition to the Orioles 40-man roster. That is Chris Vallimont, a 25-year-old right-handed pitcher who the O's claimed off waivers from the Minnesota Twins on Wednesday. We'll talk about how he fits into the Orioles roster and system moving forward, why the Twins DFA'd him, and how the Orioles could potentially fix his delivery that has given him some issues over the past couple of years. Then we'll take a look at his stats this season and talk about his pitch arsenal as well, and preview finally the 5-game series between the Orioles and the Red Sox that starts tonight in Boston. But that's all coming up on this episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
You are Locked On Orioles, your daily Baltimore Orioles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So we're jumping right into it today. The Orioles have claimed right-handed pitcher Chris Vallimont off waivers from the Minnesota Twins and put him on the 40-man roster. Now, to make room on a full 40-man, the Orioles transferred left-handed pitcher Alexander Wells to the 60-day injured list. Of course, Wells has been on the injured list for almost a month now with that UCL strain that he felt in his left elbow. Now, it doesn't look like that injury is going to require Tommy John surgery, but we know he's going to be out a while. We knew he was probably going to get placed on the 60-day IL at some point or another. Of course, when you are on the 60-day injured list, you get taken off the 40-man temporarily until you return. So that clears up a spot for the Orioles and opens the spot for Chris Vallimont. So first, just kind of wanted to get you the background on the righty and, just a little look into how he has done in his college and pro career so far. So Chris Vallimont, a 6'5", 220-pound right-handed pitcher, 25 years old, just turned 25 back in early March, and was a 5th-round draft pick of the Miami Marlins back in 2018. Now, he was not highly recruited out of high school. He was from Pennsylvania, was really only getting offers from Division II schools in Pennsylvania, and settled on basically his hometown school in Mercyhurst University, a Division II school in PA. It's actually where Dan Altavilla played, who's pitched for the Mariners over the past couple of years. And David Lowe, former Oriole, is the other big leaguer who played college baseball at Mercyhurst University. But he went there and had some ridiculous numbers, especially his last year, his junior year in 2018, 16.5 Ks per 9 as a starting pitcher for Mercyhurst in 2018. And those kind of numbers at D2, they will get you drafted pretty highly. Remember, Bruce Zimmerman was a 5th-round pick out of a D2 school in Mount Olive by the Braves in, a couple of years ago as well. Same thing goes for Valamont. He gets drafted by the Marlins. Now, pitches all right in his first basically year in the Marlins system, end of 18, beginning of 19. But at the trade deadline in 2019, in late July, he was traded from the Marlins system as he was traded alongside Sergio Romo over to the Minnesota Twins in a deal that brought Lewin Diaz, who was the top prospect in that deal, back to Miami. The deal at the time was the Sergio Romo trade, as the Twins were trying to add to their bullpen for the playoff stretch in 2019. And, Marlins got a good prospect, but I think Minnesota liked the guy they got in Valamont. So he pitches the rest of the 2019 season there, obviously loses the minor league season in 2020. And in 2021, he goes to Double A. After one dominant start in High A, they officially move him up to Double A in 2021. And that is where things got really interesting and really extreme for the right-hander. He made 21 starts in Double A in 2021. That's Double A Wichita. Had a 6.03 ERA. Now, the strikeouts were great. 12.9 Ks per 9. That is a fantastic number. That was the second best number for any pitcher in the Twins system in 2021. However, 5.8 walks per 9, one of the worst numbers for any pitcher in the Twins system that year. Super extreme. He was hurt by the home run ball, gave up 15 home runs in 21 starts. So the ERA probably could have been even a little lower, but high strikeout, high walks. So even though there were struggles with those great strikeout numbers, the Minnesota Twins decided over the offseason, because Valamont was Rule 5 eligible, that they did not want to see another team snatch him up and fix him a little bit in terms of the walks. So the Twins added him to the 40-man roster this past offseason to protect him from the Rule 5 draft, mostly because the stuff was so good and the strikeouts were so good, and they thought essentially they could fix the walks and get him to the big leagues, maybe just as a reliever, but thought they could get him to the bigs. Well, that did not happen this year. Of course, he started the year back at Double-A at age 25, and it has not gone well. 7 appearances, 6 of them starts for Valamont here in 2022. And in 19 innings, he has a 9.95 ERA. The issues with walks are worse. The strikeouts are down. The hits are up. 28 hits in 19 innings. He does have 20 strikeouts in 19 innings, which is still a solid number, but he has walked 23 batters in 19 Double-A innings this year. And while the home runs are down, just 2 long balls in his 7 starts, 23 walks in 19 innings is a bad, bad number. And the Twins got some players back from the injured list this week, needed to make some roster moves, needed to clear up space on the 40-man, and they basically tried to slip Valamont through waivers. They DFA'd him off the 40-man roster on Monday. Well, the Orioles saw him and scooped him up. O's made the claim as the Twins lose him, and then, of course, put Wells on the 60-day IL to clear space for Valamont. And, for Chris Vallimont, he was the number 27 ranked prospect in the Twins system per Fangraphs. So he still had some promise. Certainly wasn't a top prospect, at least at the moment. Was a higher ranked prospect early when he was in the Marlins system before that 2019 trade. But he becomes really interesting when you protect a guy from the Rule 5 draft. The Rule 5 draft doesn't happen. Then he's stuck on your 40-man, and he's pitching that poorly in Double-A, already 25 years old. I kind of get why the Twins decided to make that DFA move. But I also get why the Orioles made the claim and what Mike Elias and his team may have in mind and may have in store for Chris Vallimont as he enters the Orioles system. So coming up next, we'll dive a little deeper into Valamont's arsenal and what he could potentially do with the Orioles if they can get him to just throw a few more strikes and let that really, really good stuff loose. But first, got to tell you about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar out there on the market. I've talked about Built Bar plenty of times on this podcast, but that's because they taste so good. This is truly a product I enjoy. They're basically like candy bars, but they're good for you. These Built Bars with 17 grams of protein, low sugar, low carbs, low calorie. It's a great, healthy, delicious snack for you. Great flavors like peanut butter brownie, mint chocolate chip. They've got fruity flavors as well. All the bars covered in 100% real chocolate. They are delicious. But they've also got other products like the Built Puffs, the first ever protein-infused marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate with great flavors as well. They've just got so many delicious products that are good for you as well. So to get your hands on some of these delicious treats, head to Built.com. And if you use the promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So the Orioles make a waiver claim. Right-handed pitcher Chris Vallimont, the 25-year-old, comes over from the Minnesota Twins. Now, the O's claimed him, but again, he's never pitched above Double-A. So he was not just going to be put right on the Orioles' active major league roster. In fact, it wasn't even Triple-A. The Orioles immediately optioned him to Double-A Bowie when they made the move. Now, as of recording here Thursday afternoon, he did not pitch in Wednesday night's game. I'm sure he hadn't even arrived in Bowie by Wednesday night's game. But the question kind of becomes, what is the Orioles' plan now with Valamont? Because obviously you get a guy with high upside. He's had these incredible strikeout numbers at times in his minor league career. The Twins thought he was good enough to protect him from the Rule 5 draft just a couple of months ago. But on the flip side, they also felt he was bad enough this year to DFA him out of Double-A. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here for the Orioles. So I kind of try to look at, what they might want to do with him. But first, just a little bit of a deeper look at Valamont to kind of understand him more. I talked about how 20 strikeouts, 23 walks, 28 hits in 19 Double-A innings this year before the DFA. Now, a lot of this information came from this offseason, so some of this hasn't been updated, but the stuff has been fairly similar. The command has just gotten a little bit worse. But in terms of his stuff, again, I mentioned Fangraphs has him ranked number 27 prospect. And Eric Longenhagen, who I trust a lot with his prospect evaluations, called him maybe a future back-end starter, but probably a future relief arm with the high strikeout stuff. But the fastball is his best pitch. It sits, around the low 90s, but he's had a lot of variation with his fastball velocity, and he's been known to touch as high as 98, and he can get 95, 96 consistently sometimes. And so that's one factor in maybe do you move him to the bullpen? Because he's touched 98 as a starter, maybe he can sit 95, 97 if you move him to the bullpen full time and you kind of airs it out in one inning stints, similar to what has happened with a guy like Jorge Lopez for the Orioles. So maybe that could play in their favor. Now that the fastball has movement as well, it's a pretty good pitch and it's gotten him a lot of strikeouts over the years. Now, the big whiff pitch at this point is the slider. According to Fangraphs, it's got a 50 current value on the 20 to 80 scale and a 55 future value. That's kind of the swing and miss pitch that he's continued to work on. Also throws a pretty solid curveball, more of a 12-6 curve that he throws over the top from the right-hander. And then he tosses in a changeup, which he's kind of been working on, but Fangraphs graded it as a 40 pitch this offseason. It seems like, if a team does remake him, they may even have him drop that changeup and kind of just go fastball, slider, curveball. And I could definitely see, despite the Orioles really investing in players' changeups, maybe they kind of drop that pitch and just go to fastball, slider, curve. Maybe they just go to fastball, slider and try to turn him into a really dominant reliever. Now, Eric Longenhagen, in his write-up for Fangraphs back in March, did say that a shortened arm action that he went to in 2021 may have caused those kind of extra command issues that he had last year. Of course, he's having even more command issues so far this year. But what is interesting about him, he is a driveline guy. He's been going to driveline pretty much every offseason since 2016 after his freshman year in college at Mercyhurst, and they have upped his velocity every year there, and that's why he's been able to get up to 96, 97, 98 with the fastball velocity. And again, all this information from Fangraphs and from Baseball America as well. But the question now kind of becomes, what do the O's do with him? We know they've optioned him to Bowie. That's where he's going to start. But what does the future look like? The first question becomes, does he enter the Bowie Bay Sox rotation, or does he pitch out of the bullpen in bulk innings, or does he just become a 1 to 2 inning reliever almost immediately for the Orioles? I do think they're at least going to give him a shot to start in the system. Now, it does help that Bowie has, between illness and injuries at the AA level, they've had a lot of spots for pitchers to, really step up. And so it's going to help to just have another arm in Valamont in that Bowie rotation. And I do think they will use him as a starting pitcher, at least at the beginning. But I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a reliever just because of that good stuff. Maybe you cut off the changeup, you cut off the curveball, you make him a fastball slider guy. He's throwing it up there at 98 out of the bullpen with a wicked slider. And if you can only focus on those two pitches, maybe you can cut down on his windup. Maybe have him just go out of the stretch as a full-time reliever. Maybe if you can simplify things for Chris Vallimont, he can start to throw more strikes and those strikeout numbers can continue to be good. And then he becomes a really, really dominant reliever. And, we know the Orioles have some guys like this. I mean, his numbers do kind of look like Felix Bautista's minor league numbers at times where, he was striking out a lot of guys, but you look back at 2019 and even times in 2021 for Bautista, just some crazy bad walk rates for the big man, but he finally figured it out. And now look at him. He's the Orioles' second best reliever in one of the best bullpens in baseball right now at the major league level. And it took him a long time in the minors in terms of Bautista to figure it out. But if the O's can do it with him, I think they can do it with Valamont, who probably had even better prospect pedigree than Bautista ever had. So I think the O's see something here, whether it's the fastball or the slider they really want to hone in on, or something they've seen from him that they feel they can fix in the delivery to get that command at least playable. Because listen, a guy who was walking 6 batters per 9 last season is not all of a sudden going to cut that to 2 walks per 9. But if you can cut it to 4 walks per 9 and keep it at 11 or 12 Ks per 9, now we're talking about a seriously good, at least reliever who's already 25, already has big league type stuff. And if he can command it better, can probably climb up this system fairly quickly. And now the other question is that I've seen posed is, will the Orioles turn around and try and slip him through waivers again? Now, the Orioles at the moment are not the number one waiver team on the priority. they would have been in the offseason, but they don't have the worst record in baseball right now. So I believe there's about 5 or 6 teams that already passed on Valamont for him to get to the Orioles on waivers and for them to claim him. So it is possible that the O's could waive him again, because there's only so long that you want a guy in Double-A to be on your 40-man roster. I mean, the O's did start this year with Logan Gillespie on the 40-man in Double-A, but he quickly got to Triple-A, and of course, he's now in the big leagues for the Orioles. So they don't have anybody right now in Double-A on the 40-man roster. Everybody's either in the big leagues, on the injured list, or in Triple-A. So that obviously raises some questions, because you need to start opening 40-man spots for certain guys, including Grayson Rodriguez at some point this year, and hopefully Kyle Stowers, and probably some other guys throughout the season. You don't want a guy who's sitting in Double-A really to be closing up a 40-man spot, especially when the 40-man roster is full at the moment. So it's definitely a possibility that the Orioles try and slip him through. But what they do know is, all right, the 5 or so worst teams in baseball who could more likely keep a player in Double-A on the 40-man because they're not trying to win have already passed on him. So if they're looking at, 23, 24 teams who have better records than the Orioles, they may be thinking, well, maybe they're scared of 1 or 2 teams. And they're saying, if we can just slip him through those couple of teams, these competitive teams are not going to claim a guy and put him on their 40-man and then have him sit in Double-A and basically waste a 40-man spot for this year. So I could completely see the Orioles trying to slide him through waivers again. And if it works, it's a big get for the O's, because if they can slide him through waivers, they can keep him in Double-A, they open up the 40-man spot, and then they don't really have to worry about, how they finagle him through the season on the 40-man roster. He just is treated essentially as another minor leaguer. Now they'd have to make a decision this offseason, because he'd be Rule 5 eligible again to put him back on the 40-man roster. But I think this could work out for the O's if they can maybe slip him through waivers. I don't know if they will. Maybe they'll hold on to him on the 40-man all year. Maybe they're scared teams behind them will want to claim Chris Vallimont. But I think at the end of the day, good strikeout stuff. 25 already. I think the Orioles have a plan here, and we'll see how it works out when he starts to pitch at Double-A Bowie. But back at the major league level, the Orioles have an interesting series coming up this weekend. After the off day on Thursday, they've got a 5-game series in 4 days up in Boston against the Red Sox. And coming up next, I'll do my best to preview that 5-game set as the Orioles are trying to put a scare in another big-time AL East foe. But first, let's talk about betonline.net, because you're looking at Orioles Red Sox. I'm sure Red Sox are the favorites over there at BetOnline, but you could probably get, the O's for some good odds. But BetOnline.net really in general is your one-stop shop for all your sports wagering needs. Whether you're looking for the lines, whether you're looking for sports news, whether you're looking for injury news, maybe trying to just get the live score, you can get it there. You can listen to podcasts like this one as well. And we're right in the middle of a pretty great time in sports. Of course, we've got Major League Baseball season, but college baseball is into the postseason. How about the NBA? We are into the conference finals, and the NHL getting close to the conference finals as well. So some would say it's a pretty good time to be a sports fan, and you can get everything you need at betonline.net. Heck, you can also play your favorite Vegas casino games right from the comfort of your couch. So really, for the one-stop shop for all your sports wagering needs, head to betonline.net, where the game starts. So the O's, of course, added a new player in Chris Vallimont to the 40-man roster, but I doubt we would see him in the big leagues for Baltimore at some point this year. But turning our attention back to the big league team, coming off a series loss to the Yankees, a really tough one where we felt like they really could have and almost should have won that series in the Bronx. But a much-needed day off for the Orioles on Thursday after the offense just looked tired getting shut out on Wednesday night. They're back at it for an interesting stretch. It is a wraparound series, which we've seen a little more and more in baseball over the past couple of years. A weekend series that actually leaks into Monday. But not only that, there's also a built-in doubleheader for the Orioles this weekend. Because of the lockout, we lost the first week of the season. The season started a week later than it was originally scheduled, but Major League Baseball still agreed to do a 162-game full season. Because of that, and to not start the playoffs late, they have a couple of built-in doubleheaders in everybody's schedule to get the games in the normal amount of time. And for the Orioles, this is their first one coming up on Saturday. So it's a game Friday, 2 Saturday, 1 Sunday, and 1 Monday, a 5-game series in Boston. So let's start with tonight's game, the Friday game, 7 o'clock start. And let's start with where you can watch it, because Friday night's game will not be on MASN. It is, the Orioles for the first time this year, will be on the Apple TV Plus exclusive broadcast. Now, a good thing about that is Melanie Newman will be broadcasting the game. Of course, a member of the Orioles broadcast crew already knows a lot about the O's, and she calls these East Coast Friday night games. Now, if you're worried about getting this game, here's a good thing. You don't need to be subscribed to Apple TV Plus in terms of the paid subscription to watch this game. You can just log on to Apple TV Plus either on your laptop or on your smart TV or your Roku or whatever it may be. You can sign up for free to watch this game. You don't even have to do a free trial or anything like that. These first half games are all free, available on Apple TV Plus. Just download the app or go to the website to watch the game, but it will not be simulcast on cable or on MASN. So that's where we're going to be able to find it. If you have questions, reach out to us on Twitter at Locked On Orioles. We can help to answer them if you want to watch the Orioles and the Red Sox on Friday night. And the starters for that game, well, as I'm recording this here, about 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday, Orioles haven't named any starters for the weekend. The Red Sox have, but we have a pretty good guess on who most of the Orioles starters will be as well. But for the Red Sox, it'll be Garrett Whitlock starting the Friday night game. Of course, he was their big-time reliever they got in the Rule 5 draft last year. He's now a starter this year. He's basically the Red Sox version of Tyler Wells. And he hasn't pitched against the O's as a starter this year, but as a reliever last year, he dominated Baltimore. 11 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts out of the bullpen against the O's last season. And Whitlock, he hasn't been that dominant as a starter, which obviously you're going to see coming. It's stretched out into more innings his first year as a big league starter, but he's still been pretty good this year as a starter for the Red Sox. Whitlock has a 3.58 ERA this season for Boston and 32 2/3 innings pitched on the year. He's got 40 strikeouts, does the 25-year-old righty. But the last time he pitched did not go well. May 21st against Seattle, 3 innings, 5 runs on 10 hits allowed. Hopefully the Orioles can keep that kind of offensive production up against him. And it looks like it should be Kyle Bradish going in the Friday night game for the Orioles. Of course, he made his major league debut against the Red Sox back in late April. 6 innings, 2 runs on 5 hits, 2 Ks, and a walk. So already some experience pitching against Boston. He's been a little shaky over his last couple of starts. Strikeout stuff's still been good, but giving up some hard hit balls. We'll see how Bradish responds on Friday night. Then we go to Saturday, which is the doubleheader. Now, of course, the 7-inning doubleheaders are gone. So it is 2 full 9-inning games on Saturday. The first one at noon and the second one at 6 p.m. It is a split day-night doubleheader in Boston. And we don't know how each team's going to situate it, although I believe the Red Sox are starting Nathan Eovaldi in game 1 of the doubleheader. Now, he pitched against the O's on April 30th, dominated the O's. 7 scoreless innings with 8 strikeouts. Eovaldi's been kind of trending in the other direction a little bit lately, the 32-year-old righty who has a 4.10 ERA through 9 starts this season, because 2 starts ago against Houston, he gave up 6 runs in an inning and 2/3, bounced back and struck out 11, allowing 2 runs over 6 2/3 against the Mariners his last time out. So we'll see which Eovaldi we get. And we do know Jordan Lyles will pitch 1 of the 2 games on Saturday. I would assume it's game 1. Lyles has 1 start against Boston this year, 6 innings, 1 run on 7 hits back on May 1st. Remember, he was hit really hard in that game, had a lot of base runners allowed, but basically snuck out of a million jams and pitched through 6 solid innings. Then there's game 2. Now, we don't really know who either team's going to pitch in game 2 of the doubleheader. It's the only starter the Red Sox have not named for the weekend. And the Orioles have some interesting options, but as we record here on Thursday afternoon, there's really only 2 options left, because a lot of guys who we thought could pitch in that game have just recently pitched in AAA, including Mike Baumann through 2 innings in relief on Thursday, Zach Lowther through 4 innings in a start on Norfolk's doubleheader on Thursday afternoon. So really there's 2 options. One's on the 40-man roster and one is not. The one on the 40-man roster is Denny Reyes, the right-hander who we saw come up and throw 2 scoreless innings in the St. Louis series, then got sent back down to AAA. He's been a starter in the past in the Red Sox system. Would be cool to see him come up, get his first major league start against Boston. The other guy who really is the only other possibility is, of course, Grayson Rodriguez, who is scheduled to start the Norfolk Friday night game. So if you see Grayson get scratched from that Friday night Norfolk start, it may mean that his major league debut is Saturday. Now, I don't think the O's are going to do it Saturday. I do think it will be Denny Reyes, but there is a little possibility that it could be Gray Rod. Then you move to Sunday, where Nick Pivetta gets the start for the Red Sox. O's hit him well on May 1st, 4 1/3 innings, 3 runs on 6 hits in that game. And he'll go against Bruce Zimmerman, who has not started against the Red Sox this year, but in 4 career appearances against Boston, he does have a 3.60 ERA. And then on Monday, looks like it'll be Rich Hill versus Tyler Wells in the finale. Now, in terms of here on the podcast, no episode coming up on Monday. I am in a wedding on Sunday evening. I will not be recording at my usual Sunday evening time. There will be no episode on Monday, but I'll be back on Tuesday recapping all 5 games of the Orioles-Red Sox series and getting you my 3 big takeaways from that 5-game series in Boston. But until then, I'm Connor Newcomb, and this has been the Locked On Orioles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.